Okay, we're going to chapter 9. I'll have to apologize. I'm in my office. They're showing video in the classroom next door, so any rumbling you hear is from that. I'll try to speak up, make sure that you can hear me. Physical and cognitive development in middle childhood. Aspects of physical development: growth from 6 years old until the growth spurt at puberty, about 2 inches a year, about 7 pounds, 1 shoe size, 1 new set of clothes each year. Come that August weekend without the taxes, if they're not growing at about that, then it may be problematic. I do know that it changes at puberty. All of a sudden the boys and girls grow together, and then generally the girls shoot up first and then the boys shoot up. Girls do retain more fatty tissue than boys. Then they will gain some more generally at puberty. It has to do with your reproduction. Y'all need those reserves, energy reserves, to maintain a pregnancy. Nutrition, about 2,400 calories a day. Need a good, well-balanced nutrition. Plenty of bone-building materials, enough fat, healthy fats to keep building the brains, to maintain the reserves, that sort of thing. So most of the fats should be unsaturated fats. Sleep needs, around 10 hours. They generally often don't get it. Should be whatever they need to keep alert. Okay, we've had that real significant growth spurt through toddlerhood, and then for a little while the brain really doesn't, the connections don't grow. Now is the time of pruning. It is not totally pruning, and we will have another really big growth spurt come puberty and adolescence, but it's going to take a while. So we're going to increase the myelin, the support cells also in the brain. That we're working on the speed of the brain now instead of the complexity. Prefrontal lobe development continues. Again, that's what makes us, our brains, or makes us humans. That's where we think the most complex thoughts. So it's going to continue. Again, the prefrontal lobe will continue to grow in complexity and also pruning throughout adolescence up to about 25. Recess time, really generally kids need some time to have fun, to run around, some unstructured time to just be kids. But unfortunately, we kind of take a whole lot of that away from them. And it is really unfortunate because with the taking away of PE and recess, they do less physical activity at school. And what we're looking at is 6 to 12-year-olds that are not as healthy as we were when we were their age, and they have the average heart and lung capacity of 40-year-old in good health. We've got increases in high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, cholesterol levels over 300, and this is all in 10-year-olds. This is quite depressing, distressing, are a couple of terms that kind of come to me. Here are some of the things about kids when they do have the opportunity to play. Again, these are tendencies. Rough and tumble play is a big part of it. Again, more a guy thing, but there are girls who get into that sort of thing. Organized sports, they generally recommend that before about 6. Really, organized sports aren't a great thing. Again, kids need to be kids. I will say that a lot of the early childhood sports are non-structured enough to make them fun and such. I do think that organized sports are really one of the few places anymore where kids do get a lot of physical activity. Of course, since more and more of them are becoming obese and having health problems, then a lot of times sports are more difficult for them. Organized sports should be about motor skills, they should team playing, cooperation, that sort of thing. I do think they should offer a wide variety of sports. High schools, middle schools are doing better. They still tend to offer, if there's only one or two, then it's going to be football and basketball. And I've known places, school districts that really wanted to very much limit the opportunities. Title IX has helped with that. Generally, you have to also fund female sports along with it. Now, I love this one. Coach towards skill building, not winning. If you're like me, that's not how most coaches are, and there is a reason for that. If they're not winning very often, other parents will be upset, and then the coach will not be the coach anymore. We've talked about it before. It's really not about how you play the game. It's whether you win or you lose. Do Barbie dolls affect body images? Most girls have played with Barbies. We do have this, it is quite unrealistic way of representation of how females look. No female actually looks like Barbie. I know there's one out there that spent tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars, gotten more than 100 different plastic surgeries. Her goal is to look like Barbie, but I really don't think that a woman who looked like Barbie could stand up. She wouldn't have enough support in her midriff area, way too narrow. So I really don't think that it's a good way to go with girls, and it does tend to reinforce stereotype for females and their appearance that is not sustainable, even by the most model type females. I guess a good thing that with the digital abilities now, you can pretty much take anybody and make them look like you want them to. So maybe that's a positive thing, but as far as the messages we're sending to our girls becoming women, I think it causes a lot of problems. Not for all, but definitely for some. We've talked about obesity and being overweight. Some of us are geared to be more overweight. There is a reason for this. People who are able to carry extra reserves tend to survive longer if food becomes problematic. That is not much of a problem in our part of the world. We do see that in developing nations that used to not have much food, when people were starving a lot of the time or food deprived, as they start to develop, the country starts to develop, the economy starts to develop, they get the wrong kinds of food, and actually a number of the developing countries have higher child and adult obesity rates than we do now. So again, just having food is probably not a great thing. Having the correct types of food, the healthy types of food, are better. Being overweight does have some confounding factors as far as it goes in life. They tend to fall behind their peers. If they're overweight, they're less likely to be physically active. They're not going to be able to walk or run as fast very often. Kids will tease them, so social functioning often suffers. And really, I think I've mentioned it, the earlier a person becomes obese or overweight, the longer the harm, damage has to occur in their life. So a child who, if we can put off becoming overweight or obese into our 20s or 30s, 40s or 50s, then less of our life is that way, and there's less opportunity for the damage to occur. So it really is, it's better to prevent a child, if you can, from becoming overweight. If they do become overweight, changes in diets, activity levels, things like that can help. And if you can get them down, it does help in the long run. But a child who has been overweight or obese will never be quite as healthy in general as a child who never was overweight or obese. And one of the problems with this kind of cycle is that people become overweight, they're made fun of, they get depressed, they eat to soothe themselves, to self-medicate, which then just kind of increases the problems. Some of us self-medicate using drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, running. Some of us use food. Once things have, if a child is obese, they are more likely to be an overweight or obese adult, which then leads to a lot of other problems. Obesity is becoming probably our greatest health challenge at this time. Get them out of the box. Healthier school meals, they're starting to address that now. I hope that they go that way and do better. A lot of the schools I know went from healthy, well, I'm not sure how healthy they are. A lot of school meals have a lot of carbohydrates, a lot of fried foods, a lot of sugar and salt, that sort of thing. But a lot of them that I know of have gone from fixing the school food to just bringing in fast food like Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, that sort of thing, and then serving their students that stuff. Being regular physical activity, but again, I've said, we say that we need to do these things, but that's not what is happening in schools. The parents aren't going to do it, then it's probably not going to get done. It is better to set those patterns and habits of eating before the problem occurs. Again, when you keep making them try things when they're small, eventually they'll start to like things that they didn't like at first, and they can be trained to, taught to eat healthier foods. A big part of it is just helping them understand. One of my children has a bit of a weight problem, and when that tendency started to happen, we started changing our behaviors and trying to work out more, go to the Texas Tech Rec Center, things like that, maintain physical activity outside the home, things that we hadn't been doing regularly to help him deal with it. And as I get older, it's something that I'm starting to have to deal with also. So I'm trying to walk the walk as well as talk the talk. Acute medical conditions that impact childhood. Acute medical conditions are things that come on very suddenly and often intensely. Infections, viral infections, bacterial infections. This says allergies, and I think maybe that's true in some places, but I've got to say that as far as I'm concerned, living in Lubbock, Texas, allergies are a chronic, continuous thing. I'm on 2 different allergy medicines myself right now, and they just don't seem to be able to kick the West Texas springtime allergies problems. Flu, other diseases, warts. Kids will have, kids in young adulthood should have like 7 or 8 colds a week, a month, 7 or 8 colds a year. And as we get older, they tend to go down because there's a few thousand different cold viruses, but as we get one, we become immune to it, so we'll generally catch fewer as we get older. Warts are a virus, and they can be acute, they can be chronic. Generally, you can consider yourself a lifelong wart recoverer, because warts generally, I think they hide for a while. The viruses hide when our bodies take them out or we burn them off, that sort of thing, but they're always in our system. They are human papillomavirus. Chronic conditions are things that impact for a long time. Let me see if I can find this in my notes. Yeah, okay. Asthma is the number one. One thing about those colds, when they're small, you can keep them home from school, but if you don't send them to school with just a cold, pretty quick they're going to come after you for your kids missing too many days. So generally they have to have a fever over 100 and colored mucus to stay at home. Excuse me. Asthma is the number one cause of missed school. Triggers include allergies, animal dander, cockroaches, crowded conditions, secondhand smoke. If your kid goes in with frequent asthma or frequent bronchitis, that sort of thing, and they smell like smoke, do know that they will probably be calling CPS on you. So avoid that. African Americans are more impacted by whites. We're not part of that is probably environmental. They're in less healthy environments a lot of the time. There may be some genetic stuff there also. Accidental injuries, the number one cause of death in childhood. By my notes. Yes. Okay. They are much faster now. They're riding bikes. They may be riding ATVs, mini bikes, roller skates, roller blades, skateboards, all these sorts of things, and we're less likely to be around them all the time. Again, that is the protective gear is very important. And for our kids, we wouldn't bust them for not wearing their elbow and knee pads because an accident would probably be sufficient. Natural consequences of doing that sort of thing, and elbows and knees heal. Brains are different. Brains do not heal very well, so helmets are a necessity. You think I'm playing? When I say helmets, seat belts, and condoms, I'm really very serious. I may try to act like it's fun, but it's really very serious. A lot of doctors think that trampolines should be completely abolished and illegal. And as far as it goes, snowmobiles, ATVs, that sort of thing, really training on how to do it, safety training, like a professional course, would probably cut down a whole lot on underage kids doing serious injuries and death upon themselves. Okay, cognition. All right, where's cognition? Okay. Cognition. We are now in Piaget's third stage. Concrete operations, 7 to 12-year-olds. They start to have a better idea of spatial abilities. It's time that, they can use models and maps better now than they could even at 4 or 5. They also understand that, it's going to be about an hour, so that you don't have to deal with that every 5 minutes. How much further, how much longer, type of stuff that you get from small kids. You can teach them how to tell time and tell them when you're going to get there, and if they ask, you can say, look at the damn clock, figure it out for yourself. Categorization, seriation, arranging objects in a series based on a dimension, lightest to darkest, tallest to shortest, thinnest to widest, lots of different ways. Transitive inference, knowing the relationship between objects based on the relationship to a third. So it's kind of the question, James is taller than John, and John is taller than Jacob. Who is taller, James or Jacob? They should be able to figure that one out. Class inclusion. Small children, if you have, say, 10 flowers, and 6 of them are roses, and 4 of them are tulips, and you ask them, how many more, are there more flowers or more roses? Small children do not understand that flowers include both the roses and the tulips, so they will say roses. As kids get older, they understand that flowers encompasses both the tulips and the roses, so they should be correct in saying that there are more flowers than roses. Reasoning. A lot of people, particularly small children, use inductive reasoning. This tends to lead to stereotyping and such. It's taking my dog barks, her dog barks, all dogs bark. We also do things like, well, this person of whatever race you might want to say, or I saw a person or persons of whatever race, and they were being lazy. So all people of that race are lazy. You heard that sort of thing? Deductive is looking more at a general situation and then going to specific statements. So a general statement might be, from observing the little bit of basketball that I have watched, basketball players tend to be tall. Football players tend to be big. So if you tell me I'm on the computer talking to somebody or communicating with somebody via email or chat, and they say they play basketball or football, then I will probably assume that they are either tall or large people. This is not always true by any means. It does. It cuts down on the errors in logic, though. Sorry. Conservation, they'd have this stuff down pretty good, okay? Moral reasoning goes along with cognition. Small children obey because they're told to obey, and you will make them obey if they don't. So, and once they start having the rules down, they generally have the rules down very, very well. As they get older, they start to understand, well, the rules have some flexibility to them. And then, and it's okay within bounds not to do exactly what you have been taught is the correct thing to do. Some people don't get this way, some people don't agree with this. Notion of equity, that things should be fair, that people should get fairly much the same amount of something or that sort of thing occur, getting closer to puberty. Okay, we've talked about executive function, which is part of working memory, which is a section of similar to a part of short-term memory. So whatever we are dealing with in our mind at one time is within the executive function, which is in working and short-term memory. Prefrontal lobe continues to develop as it does, as that white matter, myelin and support cells increase. They think faster. That's very important. Selective attention increases. This is the ability to focus on what's important. So infants don't have this at all. They're distracted by everything. When we get to this, stereotypically males develop this much better than females do. It's very, My kids can be fighting on the couch beside me while I'm watching TV, and it's up to my LP to hear them clear to the other side of the house to come over and correct them. My feeling is that males are better at this, because if the adult males allowed the children to irritate them like the adult females do, we're much more likely to kill them and eat them than the females are. Working memory, because the brain, prefrontal lobe, is developing, increases. IQ controversy. I'm pretty down on IQs. Hold on just a second. I'm going to check the time. I'm going to have to hurry this up. People who support IQ says that they have been given to millions and millions of children. This allows us to, that it validates, that means that it is testing what it says it's testing, which is really academic ability and partially potential. And they are reliable in that if you take two different IQ tests, they should come out about the same for the same person. They predict school achievement reasonably well. Criticisms, they underestimate children who do not test well. So children who have trouble sitting still for long periods of time will not come out well on IQ tests. ESL students probably won't come out real good on IQ tests. Students with dyslexia won't come out very well on IQ tests. So it really doesn't fit all children, and it's really pretty limited in what it can be used by. And it doesn't, I mentioned it with Vygotsky a couple of chapters back, it doesn't show how well they learn, it just shows what they know now. So poor kids will come out not doing very well. Brain development, schooling. So having a quality preschool experience generally helps. IQ does drop during summer. That's one argument for year-round school, because most of that, what we all know, so that first 6 weeks or so is all about relearning what you forgot over the summertime. We've talked some about race, ethnicity, and SES and the impact on those children. But generally because of, well, it's a number of things. There are racial or ethnic biases in the tests, and there's unequal opportunities to learn at an early age. Genetic argument. Okay, real quick on this one. Well, no, go to class. I'll tell you about it in class. Let's just say that what we perceive as genetic differences can be, if we can mask expectations, then generally the expectation of certain people not performing as well and other people performing better, we can make those differences, the IQ differences, go away. The problem is changing or masking those expectations. So again, culture is important. We talked about the subway situation. If you're asking a subway train question, then a rural, small town, not so big city type of cultures are going to not do as well. The children from those cultures are not going to do very well or as well. And cultural free is trying to provide questions that culture has no impact on as far as knowledge, experience with that. I don't think there's a real way to do it. Culture fair might be to have, out of every 100 questions, you have a certain number of questions that fit different cultures, or you might have totally different tests for different cultures, or different questions in the test for different cultures. That can be culture fair or culture relevant. The problem with that is it's very difficult to make different tests that are identical in how they measure things. So personally, I don't think that this is a viable option. I think IQ tests can and probably should be used, but probably not as a major indicator. I like Gardner's theory of multiple intelligence. This one fits better the way I was raised, which was pretty much, you're really good, everybody is really good at something. The thing is to find that thing and focus on it. So some of us are very good at linguistics, and so here are some suggestions as far as what to do. If you're good with words, then use words. Logical, being able to think through things, that's the scientific method. So science, business, medicine. Bodily, I wish I had some of this. I love to dance, but it's not a pretty sight. So if you're good with your body, and you know these people, there are some people who just seem born to be athletic. They have grace and beauty in their movements. They know where they are in time and space all the time. I'm just not one of those people. Intrapersonal, intra means within. These people are people who understand themselves. And if you understand yourself very well, then you can generally help other people understand themselves. Interpersonal, teaching, acting, politics, this is the understanding of how to manipulate others. There's a little difference there between intrapersonal and interpersonal. One is helping a person understand themselves, the other is using their understanding of people to manipulate them. These are not, none of these are mutually exclusive. You may be really good in one, you may be good in some or all of them. Sternberg deals in triarchs, threesomes. We'll talk about his theory of love later on in adulthood. He said there are three aspects of intelligence. Componential, this is what most people would consider IQ, the ability to look at something and think about it and work through it. Experiential, what you have done in your life. A person who has worked on cars, an auto mechanic who's worked on cars for a long time, can very often tell just by the sound of a car what's wrong with it. Doesn't have to hook it up to the computer, do all that stuff. And it has to do with their ability, their experience. So they're insightful about the stuff. Contextual, practical, we call this common sense, though it's not very common a lot of the time. The ability to use things in a real world situation. And again, you may be good at one of these, you may be good at two of these, you may be good in all three. You don't need to know specific things. What you do need to know is researchers are trying to figure out ways to better test people who don't do well on IQ tests. Y'all might have heard Temple Grandin, something like that. She was considered mentally retarded. She's a genius. She's just autistic. That sort of thing masks people's IQ, their ability to communicate, their ability to perceive things, to deal with the written word or even oral word. These things all impact how we think about a child and their ability to learn. Also dynamic tests, I mentioned that and gave a demonstration on Vygotsky. That's how quickly a person can learn a certain amount of information instead of what they already know. Pragmatics of language. Know what the definition is? We've talked about it. You should know it by now. They should be getting better at this. Should be able to hold conversations, things like that, tell stories. Second language education, English immersion is how a lot of people want things to be. There's now a struggle between the state of Texas and the federal government on how Texas is doing second language education, ESL type stuff. We don't want to do what they tell us to. We're not doing very well by our ESL students, and the feds want us to do better, and we, as usual, are sticking to our guns to maintain people's ignorance and such. English only is a big movement. English immersion is what we have generally done. You just throw the kid into a class and they learn. Now, as far as learning quickly, this is probably one of the ways to do it, but they're going to lose a whole lot of knowledge along the way. Bilingual education, teaching the child in their first language first and then moving more and more into English is kind of how we're going. Friendship and a number of the others and research do support two-way or dual language learning. What this is you put both English speakers and English as second language and together and teach them both languages. This is how most of the developed world does it. It seems to work real well. It helps with problem solving and logic and such. I just think it's a really good thing, would be a really good thing for our children and their children to know 2 or 3 or more languages instead of sticking them with English. More and more children are going to school. This is causing problems because it used to be the developed world were the only ones going to school, so ours were the only children who had skills. Well, now India, China, lots of countries, huge populations are going to school, and they're taking our jobs away from us. Get ready for it. You're in a changing world. It's becoming more and more global. No matter how much somebody wants to keep it all about the USA or Western civilization, it's going more global, and you're going to have to be dealing with more global situation, and your kids even more so. My recommendation is maintain flexibility, because we have no way in the world to predict how things are going to be in 20 years. Okay, we talked a little bit about this. Children, teaching reading, you can do phonics, hooked on phonics. This works pretty well with children and learning things, and it's also, or learning to read, it's also pretty good for dealing with unknown words. Problem with English, though, is that we steal words from all different kinds of languages, so phonics doesn't work with a lot of the more complex words in our language. Pardon me. Visually based retrieval, whole language approach. This utilizes the fast mapping that we talked about in vocabulary. By reading a paragraph, you can pull out the meaning of a word by how it's used in the paragraph. Generally, we start children, decoding is useful in early learning or early reading learning, and then as we get better, we shift more to visually based retrieval. So it generally is a combination of the two. Each have strengths, each have weaknesses. Writing skills go along with it. I'm not going to get into exactly what's going on. They just goes along with their reading. Influences on school achievement, self-efficacy beliefs. If a child believes that they can learn, then they generally can. If they've been taught that they're stupid, they're slow, they can't learn, then that tends to happen also. Gender, this is one of those things that's changing. Generally, there are very subtle tendencies for parents, teachers to reinforce certain beliefs. Girls are good at language skills. Boys are good at math and science. That has been the traditional situation. What we're seeing now, though, really is kind of a shift. And boys seem to be falling behind as far as school achievement. It seems that we have grown to expect more out of the girls, but along the lines we are starting to expect less out of the males. They're more muscle and stuff. I kind of think that it's a problem situation. It seems like we should be able to help both genders learn to the maximum, or at least encourage them to learn at a maximum level. Parenting practices, whether at school and education, is important to the parents. Again, it's very important to most middle, upper class parents. It's less accepted or expected in lower class. This is just a tendency. There are a lot of poor parents, poor families who really want their kids to succeed, and very often those kids will. It's just not as often. SES and social capital ties into parenting practices and expectations. Social capital is what there is available. Support from the community, support from friends, money, resources that are available. This ties into educational system and school environment. The newer schools, the ones that have computers in all rooms, some school districts are giving every child a laptop. Though that sort of thing tends to improve the situation. If the school system, if the environment is unsafe, if it's because of structural or behavioral problems, kids are afraid to go to the bathroom or go to school, if they don't have the computers, the high-speed connections and such, it's going to impact their achievement. Social promotion, promoting students who do not meet standards. I think in Texas they now say you can only bump a kid up. No, you can only hold a kid back 3 times, 2 or 3, I can't remember exactly which runs into problems because if you have to pass the test to pass, and you can't pass the test, but you've already been held back your maximum number of times, what do? Well, generally by high school level, they just go ahead and drop out. Again, computer and internet use is very important. If you don't have this, you are challenged, because this is where a whole lot of our jobs, careers, that sort of thing is going to necessitate computers, internet use, the ability to utilize them effectively. Culture ties in with all that. Okay, that's where I started on the next one, so I'm done. Have a good one.